I need loyalty. I expect loyalty. According to former FBI Director James Comey, those are the words Donald Trump said to him just a week after taking office. Comey said the demand felt like a mafia induction ceremony, a push for personal allegiance over constitutional duty. Now, Trump's lawyers later denied that conversation ever happened, but the theme would become a defining feature of the Trump presidency. This wasn't just a one-off comment. It was a preview to a worldview where personal allegiance crushes institutional integrity, where rules are only for other people, and where power is just a tool for personal gain. Now, what if this isn't just a simple political strategy? What if it's a symptom of something that goes much deeper? I'm David Tomsic, and you're watching the David Tomsic Report. Now, in this video, we're going to deconstruct Donald Trump's vision for America through the clinical lens of sociopathy. Now, let's be crystal clear here. We're not going to make any clinical diagnosis here. That's not our job. Plenty of qualified people have already done that. Instead, we're going to use the established traits of sociopathy as an analytical framework, a way to make sense of political phenomena. As Harvard psychologist Dr. Martha Stout explains in her book, The Sociopath Next Door, a startling number of people, maybe 1 in 25, live without a conscience. They aren't all violent criminals. They can be your neighbor, your boss, and yes, even your president. Stout describes them as people who simply can't feel shame, guilt, or remorse. We'll explore Donald Trump's key traits, such as the stunning lack of empathy, a gift for manipulation, and an insatiable ego. They aren't just personality quirks. They are the very foundations of his policies and his plan for this nation. Number 1, the empathy deficit and the war on the future. One of the defining characteristics of a sociopath is a profound lack of empathy. It's an emotional blindness, an inability to understand or share what someone else is feeling. It reduces people and even future generations to objects to be used or obstacles to be removed. When you see the world this day, long-term consequences that you won't personally have to deal with will become completely irrelevant. And this is where policy gets personal. Look at the systemic attack on environmental protections. We've talked about that quite often here. During his term, the Trump administration has rolled back or weakened nearly 100 environmental rules. They withdrew the legal justifications for limiting mercury emissions from power plants, a neurotoxin that's especially dangerous to children and pregnant women. Protections were stripped from more than half of the nation's wetlands and countless streams, the very things that act as natural filters for our drinking water. It wasn't an accident. It's a blueprint. And that blueprint is now a 900-plus page document known as Project 2025. Once again, we've talked about this in great detail on the Tomsic Report. The environmental chapter is breathtaking. It proposes gutting the Environmental Protection Agency, known as the EPA, eliminating its Office of Environmental Justice, and halting almost all government action on climate change. The plan would hand public lands over to oil and gas companies, dismantle the Inflation Reduction Act, which encourages clean energy, and even privatizes the agencies that provide life-saving climate research. Through the lens of sociopathy, this isn't just deregulation. It's what an empathy deficit person looks like in practice. A person who generally feels for others, for the children who will inherit the planet, couldn't systematically poison their air and water for a little short-term gain. They couldn't look at a future of more extreme weather, rising seas, and ecological collapse and just feel nothing. The sociopathic mind, however, is laser-focused on its own immediate needs and desires. It sees environmental laws not as safeguards for our collective future, but as annoying roadblocks to immediate profit and power. The future doesn't vote, and its suffering can't be felt today. So in that calculation, it doesn't matter. Number 2, the manipulator-in-chief and the erosion of reality. Another core trait of sociopathy is a constant pattern of manipulation and deceit. This isn't about telling the occasional lie. It's a fundamental way of interacting with the world. Sociopaths often have a superficial charm, a charisma they use to exploit people. Lying is as natural as breathing, deployed without a second thought to shape a narrative that serves their own interests. Over his first 4 years in office, the Washington Post fact-checker documented over 30,000 false or misleading claims made by Donald Trump. That's an average of more than 21 a day. This wasn't just truthful hyperbole, as Trump once put it. It was a deliberate strategy. His one-time chief strategist, Steve Bannon, famously laid it out when talking about the media. The way to deal with them is to flood the zone with bullshit. Steve Bannon is a very dangerous person, has a lot of very dangerous ideas. Now, the goal of this firehouse of falsehood isn't just to convince you of any single lie. It's to overwhelm anyone with so much noise, so many contradictions, and so many absurd claims that the very idea of objective truth starts to break down. When people give up and decide the truth is impossible to find, the manipulator wins. It creates a world where you don't know who to trust, so you trust the one guy who speaks with absolute, unwavering certainty, no matter what the facts say. This strategy translates directly into governing vision. The Project 2025 proposal aims to take partisan control of the very institutions meant to be pillars of objective fact and justice, like the Department of Justice and the FBI. The plan is to remake the federal government by purging it of everyone except far-right loyalists. This creates a government where information is no longer a tool for public service, but a weapon for political control. When the institutions designed to tell us the truth are run by people who see the truth as inconvenient, what's left? You're left with a reality defined not by evidence, but by the will of a single leader, and this manipulator's ultimate goal, to replace reality with his own. Now, before I continue, if you enjoy our videos and believe more people should hear what we have to say, please like, subscribe, and share them with as many people as you can. Thank you. Now let's get on with number 3, grandiosity, loyalty, and the foundation of autocracy. Finally, let's talk about grandiosity and the bottomless need for admiration and loyalty. Grandiosity is an inflated sense of self-importance, a belief that you're special, unique, and just know more than anyone else. We've all heard this in statements like, "I alone can fix it." This isn't just confidence. It's a worldview where the leader is infallible, indispensable. And this grandiosity demands absolute loyalty, not to the country, but to the man. We saw it in his demand to James Comey. "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty." We saw it in his constant pressure on his own officials to praise him publicly. This need for personal fallibility isn't just a personal flaw. It's the cornerstone of an autocratic vision for America. This vision was laid out explicitly in the plan to revive Schedule F. This was an executive order Trump signed in late 2020, though it was never fully implemented before he left office. It would reclassify tens of thousands of career civil servants, scientists, policy experts, administrators as political appointees who could be fired for any reason at any time. The stated goal of Project 2025 was to use Schedule F to purge the government of experts and replace them with up to 50,000 loyalists who will bend or break the bureaucracy to the president's will. Let that sink in for a moment. The people who inspect our food, who monitor deadly diseases, and make sure planes are safe to fly, their jobs would no longer depend on their expertise, but on their personal loyalty to the president. It would dismantle the merit-based civil service we've had for over 140 years, created specifically to end corruption of the spoils system. It would create a government run by professionals, not by cronies. Now, this is the ultimate expression of grandiose sociopathic worldview. It's the belief that the entire government should operate as an extension of one person's ego, in this case, Donald Trump. Independent agencies, scientific integrity, the rule of law all become secondary to the leader's personal whims. When a leader believes that he is the state and that all loyalty is owed him directly, you are no longer on the path to autocracy. You're already there. Look, I know this is a lot to take in, and of course this topic is very controversial. The psychological concepts and the specific proposals in Project 2025 are very dense, but they demand our attention. If you want to understand the psychological framework better, I highly recommend reading The Sociopath Next Door by Dr. Martha Stout. It provides chilling, essential context for recognizing these behaviors in all walks of life. If you found this analysis valuable, please subscribe and share this video. The more people who understand the psychological drivers behind this political vision, the better equipped we'll be to face it. So what does America look like through the eyes of a sociopath? It looks like a world where the future is disposable, something to be cashed in for immediate gratification. A world where our air and water are just commodities, and the people who will get sick from their pollution are just faceless abstractions. It looks like a world where truth isn't a shared principle, but something to be twisted and warped until reality itself becomes a matter of opinion. defined by the loudest and most repetitive voice in the room. This is happening across our nation today. And most dangerously, it looks like a government where allegiance isn't to the Constitution or the public good, but to the fragile ego of one man. It's a government hollowed out and filled with loyalists, where every lever of power from the EPA to the DOJ is pulled to serve a single grandiose will. This isn't one party versus another. It's about a fundamental clash of worldviews. One is based on empathy, a shared reality, and the rule of law. The other is based on a lack of conscience, a relentless drive for power, and the belief that power is its own justification. Understanding this psychological lens just doesn't help us understand Trump's first 4 years. It gives us a clear and terrifying roadmap for what's being proposed for this country. And it's a future we have to see with our eyes wide open. Thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and share. Check out our other videos. And don't forget to love your neighbor as yourself. I'll see you next time right here